Hey, everybody, it's your bearded brothers. So, here we are, everybody. Welcome back to another week of your bearded brothers. And we are back with yet another sports podcast. My name's Matt.
That's Loki.
There's Loki, and he is on the shoulder of...
No one important.
Okay, there you go.
Everyone knows that they're here for the bird.
You're all here for the bird. The bird is the word. And so we are back again, and this week we're going to do a mock draft of round one for the NFL draft, which starts next week on Thursday. And we will be watching that, and we will record our reactions to said draft. Before we do that draft, though, however, there is one thing I would like to do first, and that is the NHL regular season has come to a close. And I would like to go through the playoff matchups with my brother Chris here for round one and get who we think is going to win in round one. Now, full disclosure, we are both Minnesota Wild fans, so there is a bias. You ready, Chris?
I'm as ready as I can be, considering the fact I didn't watch much of the regular season.
All right. So, we're going to start out east, and we'll move to the west. In your Eastern Conference, your round one matchups are the Battle of Ontario, Toronto versus Ottawa. Toronto being the top seed and Ottawa being a wild card.
Oh, am I supposed to answer your question now?
Yes.
Oh, you know, I feel bad for the Maple Leafs. Fuck it, go Maple Leafs.
I think it'll be Maple Leafs in 6. But
I don't know what it's gonna be, but I think that they have a chance of winning. Honestly, I think it's funny how often they're like, "This is our year." Maybe this is finally it. Maybe you'll finally get past round one.
Well, they did that another year. They actually beat the Lightning.
I know, but they've had it rough though for a while. Is what I'm saying.
Yes. This year though, they've played really well. They've mucked. Yep. They actually know how to muck around in the net area now. Go to the net. They've got a guy in there who likes being a big banger with Matthew Nyes. They've got a really good D-core, and Anthony Stolarz has been really good in that. So I really like the Leafs this year. Now, Division 2 versus Division 3. The Lightning face off against the Florida Panthers.
I'm going Panthers.
You're going Panthers? You're going to take the D3?
I'm going to go Panthers. I'm going Panthers.
Well, they did win it last year. I'll take the Lightning. And I'm going to take the Lightning in 7. And the only reason why is because currently we don't know the status of Matthew Tkachuk, and there are other Lightning people that are hurt. And I don't know how they're going to do, or not Lightning, Panthers people who are hurt. So I don't know how they're going to do without some of these people. But this is going to be interesting because it's the Battle of Florida, and you've got Vasilevsky and Bobrovsky in net. This is going to be fun. Alrighty. Next one, you've got Division 1 versus Wildcard 2. The Capitals of Washington is Division 1 versus the Canadiens of Montreal.
That's a tough one. I'm going to be a little weird. I'm going to go with the Canadiens.
You know what? I'll take the Canadiens in 7 as well. Just after Ovi got his record-breaking goal, it's like the Washington turned themselves off. And they have not been playing well to end the season. Whether or not they can crank that engine back up and get moving again in the first round, I don't know. But the Canadians have had to finish extremely hot just to make the playoffs. And the last time the Canadians scraped and clawed to get into Wild Card 2, they faced off against the Capitals and beat them in 7. So that could be
repeat.
History repeats. And in the other game, D2, D3, the Carolina Hurricanes against the New Jersey Devils. I will caveat, I do not think Hughes is going to be at least starting in this series right now. I think he's still injured, and I'm not sure about Dougie Hamilton for the Devils either.
I'm taking the Hurricanes anyways. I don't know. I feel confident in the Hurricanes.
I said Canes in 5 on this one.
Yeah.
I feel like as many strides as Jersey has made, it's still the Hurricanes, man.
Yeah.
All right. So that's our round 1 picks. We both picked Toronto. You picked Florida. I picked Tampa. We both picked Montreal, and we both picked Carolina. Now, over in the Western side, D1, Wildcard 2. Winnipeg, the Jets, versus the St. Louis Blues, who absolutely finished the season on a heater. They were scorching. And Winnipeg's been basically at the top of the standings all season long.
Yeah, Winnipeg's been great. It's actually pretty tough, but I think I'm going to go with the upset in the Blues.
I'm taking Winnipeg in 7. But it would not surprise me to see an upset here just because of how well I think they match up.
Yep.
Now, D2 versus D3. Dallas, the Stars, versus the Avalanche of Colorado. The return of Rantanen.
I mean, as much as I don't like to say it, I think it is going to be the Avalanche. They're just so good.
Yes, but I'm going to take Dallas because they're also really, really good this year, and I hate doing it. I hate Dallas, but I say Dallas in 7.
Fair enough.
Next one, D1, the Vegas Golden Knights versus Wildcard 1, your Minnesota Wild.
Listen, I know it's the Knights. I know there's a pretty good chance that they'll win, but I'm still going Wild.
I'm taking Wild in 7 because the Knights are a little banged up, and the Wild just got... The only reason they're a WC2 team, or a Wildcard 1 team, is because they missed Kaprizov for half the season. And now we've got Kaprizov back, and we've got Ek back, and we're fully healthy again. I think that with the way... Because if you look at his overall save percentage, right? If you look at Gustafsson's save percentage, it didn't really change. It's just he stopped getting offensive support. He's still one of the best goalies in hockey. It's just they were losing games 3-1, 2-1, stuff like that, because they weren't getting any offense without Kaprizov and Ek. Now that those guys are back and Boldy finally figured out how to step his game up, I think this is a very dangerous team. And the Golden Knights, you can't look past them, man. You can't.
No. That's what I'm saying. They're a tough team.
Yeah, but the Knights can't look past the Wild either, because if you look at their record, you can't go, okay, they suck. You got to go, yeah, but they were one of the top teams in the nation before Kaprizov went out for the season. But he's back. So...
Yeah, we'll see.
Yep. And then... The last game, D2, D3. D2, the Los Angeles Kings face off against, for the 5th year in a row, the Edmonton Oilers.
I mean, the Kings have been pretty good.
McDavid
I'm still
and
going to go Oilers.
Yeah, McDavid and Draisaitl have been a little hurt. They don't have... So I'm taking the Kings in 6, and here's why. McDavid and Draisaitl have both been a little banged up this year, and the Oilers have no defense, and Skinner has not been the goaltender he was last year. So with that being said, it looks... If Edmonton is going to win this series, they're going to have to be all gas, no brakes for the entire series. And despite having some of the best all gas, no brakes guys in hockey, I just don't think they can do it over 7 games of playoff hockey.
No, we'll find out.
We will. And also, Darcy Kemper has looked like Stanley Cup winning Darcy Kemper from the Avalanche. He's been friggin' unreal in net. The puck looks like the size of a beach ball to him currently. He's been unreal. So yeah, I think it'll be the Kings, if only because Kemper will steal them at least one game. Alrighty. And that's what we wanted to do there. We'll come back when round 2 begins. And we will tell you, obviously who won round 1, and we'll do picks for round 2. Alrighty. So, with that being done, this coming Thursday, as we have stated, NFL Draft Round 1. We're going to do our own Round 1 right here. We're each going to pick for each one of the 32 spots. Rules are we cannot make trades. We think there will be some trades, maybe several trades, this year on draft day. Now, before we completely start, I do want to say there was one piece of football news that I'm going to group in here because it's worth talking about and it's funny.
Okay, go ahead. It's honestly not really worth talking about, but...
No, it's really not, but I want to say what I want to say. Aaron Rodgers went on McAfee and said he's keeping his options open, including retirement, and I'm here to make I'm looking right down the barrel of my camera. I'm here to make a personal plea to Aaron Rodgers right here on our show. Please retire. We're tired of you doing this every year. Retire. Go away. Go. Go back to California. Go live up in the woods in a cabin in permanent darkness. Nobody wants to hear from you anymore. Okay.
I mean, he's probably not going to retire, to be honest. Honestly, my feelings is he's just doing this as a way of basically going, well, fine, I'll just wait until a team gets injured and really needs me, and then I'll come out, and that's what it feels like is going to happen.
Yeah, that's what it feels like to me, too. All right. Now that we've got that out of the way, let's get our draft started. You may begin, sir.
Oh, can I start?
Round 1, pick 1, Titans on the clock. You're the Titans. Who are you picking?
As the Titans GM, I've thought long, and no, I haven't. I haven't thought long and hard about this at all. The Titans are going to pick quarterback out of Miami University, Cam Ward. I'm not even going to pretend that there's any other picks here. Everyone knows that this is what's going to be. It'd be ridiculous for them not to pick this unless they're trading out for a buttload of fucking picks. It just doesn't make sense. Anyone who's arguing otherwise, I think, is off their fucking rocker. There we go.
I had considered several earlier drafts as the GM of the Titans of maybe taking Abdul Carter, but in the end, I made the correct pick and the smart pick out of the University of Miami, Cam Ward. No, he checks all the boxes. There are some things he needs to work on, but I think you need a quarterback because Levis is not it unless you're just watching for comedy's sake.
Like, don't get me wrong. I don't think Levis is a bad quarterback. I just think he's got a lot more to learn before he's ready to be starter.
Yeah, and so if I were Tennessee, I would pick up Cam Ward, and then later on in the draft, I'm trying to trade Levis to somebody who needs
trade Levis to somebody who might want to train one who's like not necessarily needs a quarterback, but like
is willing to sit.
Maybe has a veteran. Yeah, so someone who's got like a veteran who might be.
Maybe the Rams would be interested in that.
Maybe the Rams. Maybe the Saints, because they're worried about Derek Carr not coming back. Maybe you do that.
Well, they might also answer that in the draft here. We'll have to see.
They might, or you go to the Cowboys maybe, because you're not sure if Dak Prescott's going to stick around.
That's not a horrible idea. No, certainly that works.
Stuff like that.
Also, the Jets maybe would be interested, considering
the Jets might be, yeah.
Have a little competition
The Giants
there.
even.
The Giants even, yeah. Alrighty. So...
The Browns.
Number 2 on the list. You are the Cleveland Browns, and you are on the clock.
I am the Cleveland Browns GM, and I know a lot of people what they want here, and I'm not going to give them what they want. The Browns are going to select wide receiver out of Colorado, Travis Hunter. You're not getting a QB. You're getting the next best thing you can possibly get. My blind is that you have a potential couple QBs and a QB in the locker room who can do okay. With Travis Hunter, you'll make him look probably even better because let's not forget Kenny Pickett, when he was with the Steelers, did not look bad when he had good wide receivers. I think you give him a little bit of a chance with the Browns. I'm not saying he's your permanent thing, but I'm saying you get the best player you can at this position, and then you try to get a QB next draft.
So here's my thing about that. You did hear that Travis Hunter says that he will quit playing football if teams don't let him play both ways.
That's the funny thing is the Browns need a wide receiver and they need a corner. It fits.
But for me, that's not the way I went. I agree that that's a great pick. But I, as the GM, looked at this a different way and said, I don't have a quarterback. I'm not going to take a quarterback here because I don't think there's another one that deserves to be this high. So if I can't have a quarterback, neither can anyone who plays me. And I'm going to grab from Penn State, Abdul Carter. I'm going to pair him with Myles Garrett. And I am just going to smack every quarterback in the mouth all season long.
That's fair. I get that.
And I think that makes sense. It gives you a franchise edge piece to pair alongside Myles Garrett so he doesn't have to do everything by himself. And bringing Abdul Carter and Myles Garrett off the edges is just wrong and frightening. And I love the image.
That's fair.
Number 3, you are now the GM of the New York Giants, and you are on the clock, sir.
As the GM of the Giants, I'm going, fuck, we wanted Travis Hunter. We're not getting Travis Hunter. Then fine, nobody's going to have a fun time. Giants are selecting edge out of Penn State, Abdul Carter.
I figured we did this. As the GM of the Giants, I looked at everything and went, we need a wide receiver, and we need a quarterback and a cornerback. And we need somebody who can turn into a cornerback if Justin Fields throws interceptions. So we're going to take, out of Colorado, Travis Hunter.
Yep, makes sense.
Both of those.
Like either like honestly, either one of those are correct options to be honest. To me, like,
yeah. Flip them either way you want. Either way, it works for both teams.
Right.
All right. Here's where things could get different for us.
I'm curious to see what happens here. Yeah, a lot of these things I feel like are going to be very interesting.
Because this is one that I played with so many different things, but I ended up just sticking with who I took. Number 4, the New England Patriots GM. You are on the clock.
So I've thought about this for a while. Patriots have a couple of things that they can work with, but I thought you have a defensive-minded head coach who can work pretty well with the defense. So I wanted the Patriots to have a little bit more help on the offense, and I specifically went with offensive line. Patriots will select offensive tackle out of Michigan, Will Campbell.
LSU.
Is it LSU?
Yeah, Will Campbell's
really?
LSU. Yeah.
God damn it! I got that wrong. No, but that's what I meant. Hold on. Are you? I gotta double check this now.
I'm 100%
I feel like I'm going crazy. Am I going crazy? Jesus Christ! I'm going crazy. Why did I put him down as Michigan? Jesus Christ! Yes,
because the other guy who's got a sort of similar-ish name.
Yeah, he's probably out of LSU. Yeah.
Is Michigan.
Yeah.
However,
anyways, yes, I meant LSU.
I actually did toy around with that idea. And it's something that made sense to me, but I went in a different direction. And I said, there were some people that were trying to maybe Ashton Genty would go here, and I thought, no, Ramondre Stevenson is pretty good. I like him. Their line is bad and needs some work, but your quarterback can move a bit. So I'm not super worried about your line, and you may have a chance in round 2 to still pick up an offensive tackle. So what I did here was I said, let's arm your quarterback. Let's give him somebody who can catch. So I gave him the wide receiver out of Arizona, Teteroa McMillan. He's obviously the second best wide receiver coming out of the draft this year. I absolutely love him to death. I think this makes a ton of sense. But again, if they went with the offensive tackle, it also would not at all surprise me.
Right. For sure.
Alrighty. Pick number 5 is on the clock. Jaguars GM, what you got?
So this is where I thought about putting Tet because I figured it'd be really interesting to see Brian Thomas Jr. and Tet together on the same team. Gave a huge, huge light up. But then I thought about it for a while and figured, the Jags really need some help on the defense. So I changed my mind. Maybe people will disagree with this, and that's totally fine. But I went with defensive tackle out of Michigan, Mason Graham.
When I put myself into the mind of the Jaguars GM, I came up with the same answer. They need defensive help badly, and they need to be able to start stopping people. And with that in mind, I also took the defensive tackle out of Michigan, Mason Graham. As we've mentioned, just a big wrecking ball of a human being.
Yep.
Yeah, I think he's going to anchor their defensive line for a decade.
Oh, yeah.
Easy. So, yeah. Anything else you got to add about that?
No, I mean it makes perfect sense to me. If he's there, they should take him.
100%. Number 6. This is where things are going to get spicy.
I agree. I did the thing that everyone expected, though. The Raiders are going to take running back out of Boise, Ashton Genty. They need a running back. I know there's a lot of other things they need, but come on. You're going to tell me the running backs in that room is who they're going to stick with? Fuck no.
Well, since I did not give this player earlier on to someone, at this point is when I look at their line and I go, you know what? I think I'm going to make sure that they've got a dude on the edge of that line that can protect the quarterback, Geno Smith, and they're going to take out of LSU the offensive tackle, Will Campbell.
I don't disagree with it. I've seen a lot of people saying that Ashton Genty shouldn't go to the Raiders because that line is so bad that even he's going to have issues with it. I get it. I don't disagree with it. But because I heard already given away Will Campbell, I as much as I like Kelvin Banks as a second offensive tackle, I think the Raiders would have a hard time passing up on Ashton Genty if he's here, to be honest.
I would too, unless Will Campbell is there.
Yeah.
If Will Campbell is sitting there, I think they would go with Will Campbell.
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah. And so that brings us to Woody's GM and the Jets. You're on the clock.
If I'm the GM and I don't have Woody and his fucking son's whispering in my ear, this is what I would do. I would look at my team and go, okay, what do we need to focus on? And what do we not need to focus on? First thing you don't need to focus on, you got wide receivers. You got people who can catch the ball. You don't need to worry about that. Your defense is still pretty decent. You do have a Justin Fields who can move, but I think if you can, you want to give him a little bit more time in that pocket if you can. And that's what I did. That was the decision I made. I think in this position, I would go, I want to give Fields as much time as possible to sit in that pocket before he has to move. Because we've seen what happens when you don't give him a line when he was with the Bears. Even though he can run, it can still look a little ugly. So I've picked offensive tackle out of Texas, Kelvin Banks.
I also identified it's been a problem that the Jets have had for years. They've never had a good offensive line, and every time they try to pick somebody for the offensive line, they end up getting it wrong or they end up being injury prone. But this time they get it right with an offensive tackle from Texas and Kelvin Banks Jr.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Which moves us right along to the Carolina Panthers, who took a step forward offensively last year. And they've locked up their J.C. Horn. So as the GM of the Panthers, what are you doing now?
As the GM of the Panthers, I'm pretty happy right now if I'm looking at this particular draft. Because I'm thinking, well, shit. We were worried about QB for a little bit, but it seems like he's had a resurgence, which is fantastic. Our offensive line is not bad. Our defense is looking pretty decent. And we have a couple of weapons on offense. But you know what? Let's give Bryce Young one more big guy. I'm going with wide receiver out of Arizona, Tet McMillan.
I don't hate that, but I looked at them and I came away with a different need, and I said, you know what they really could use? I want to see somebody play alongside JC Horn that just
I
completely
get it.
locks people down. And with that in mind, I, being the GM of the Panthers, took the cornerback from Michigan, Will Johnson.
I
And
get it.
like I said, I think that absolutely just shuts down opponents.
And the thing is, like, for you, Tet was already off the board, so that makes
Yep.
sense. But I think if Tet is here, the Panthers are going to have a hard time passing him up.
I agree, but again, I feel like secondary is a greater need than wide receiver for them.
I disagree. They have, like, one good wide receiver. Xavier Leggett is just okay. He has not impressed me enough. I think Tet McMillan is a far better wide receiver than Xavier Leggett, to be honest with you.
We'll see. Alrighty, moving down to number 9, the New Orleans Saints, GM of the Saints. So, go on and let me know what you think.
So, I thought about this, and I thought QB could be an option here, being that Derek Carr, we know, is probably not playing the season. But I went a different direction because I decided to go, okay, I'm handing the reins over to Spencer Rattler. I'm going to let him take the season. I'm going to protect Spencer Rattler, and I'm going to give him offensive tackle out of Missouri, Armand Membo. And I'm thinking if either Spencer Rattler will trial by fire and succeed, or he won't, and we'll get a high draft pick next season to try to get Arch Manning.
At this point, I don't, as the GM of the Saints, looking at this roster going, God, the answer to
You need a lot.
do we need this is yes.
Yes.
But with the uncertainty surrounding Derek Carr, even if he plays again this season, I feel like we still haven't found our prominent answer at quarterback, which is the key position. And with that being said, considering that we've seen one slipping and one rising, I'm going to take my shot in the dark at something ridiculous here.
Oh,
And
are you going to go Jackson Dart this early? Jesus
I'm
Christ.
taking the quarterback out of Ole Miss, Jackson Dart.
God
Now,
damn.
in
That's
reality,
early.
I think the Saints would
Probably trade down.
trade down and still pick him. Yes.
Yeah.
But because they're not doing, because we don't allow that here, I feel like Jackson Dart makes the most sense for them.
I get it, but I think I have a better place for him. We'll get there.
I have a pretty good place for the next quarterback too.
I also have a pretty good place for the next quarterback. Honestly, the last two quarterbacks on my list, I think, pretty good places for him. So we'll get there.
Alrighty. Moving on down the list, we have the Chicago Bears. You are the GM of the Bears on the clock. What are you doing?
Obviously, this is where the Bears are going, fuck, Ashton Gentry's not on the board anymore for us. We're not getting Ashton Gentry. That sucks. However, we'll take the next best guy, running back out of North Carolina, Omarion Hampton. I think he's still a very good running back. I think they would still be perfectly happy to have him outside of not getting Ashton Gentry. If Ashton Gentry's still on the board, I think this is the place you put him.
Which is why, as the Bears, I went, yay, Ashton Gentry's still here. So with their pick at 10, they're going to take the running back out of Boise State, Ashton Gentry. Immediate upgrade to the offense. Absolutely not stupid at all. They know exactly what they're doing. Super smart move. Love it to death.
Yep.
So, one of the surprise teams of the season to be this high, at number 11, you are the GM of the San Francisco 49ers, who just had a horrible offseason, a horrible last season. You need a lot of crap. What are you going to do?
I was going to say, this is reminiscent to what we've talked about before. This is a team that kind of goes, what do we need? Yes. So I went, who's the best player still on my board, who I think makes the most sense here? We're going with cornerback out of Michigan, Will Johnson.
That makes perfect sense.
It makes a lot of sense.
I
here.
like that a lot. Unfortunately, he's already gone from my board. So instead, I looked around and I went, who else fits a 49ers mentality? And for me, there was one guy that I looked at and I went, yes. And that's the DT out of Michigan, Kenneth Grant. You know I love that guy. And he absolutely fits that 49ers big, solid, inside defensive tackle kind of guy who pushes through things and makes sacks, which is something I think they could really use.
That's fair. That's fair.
Moving along now, you are Jerry Jones, and you have absolute dementia. Um, what are you going to do at number 12, Jerry?
See, this is the one pick where I didn't go, what would Chris do as GM? I went, I'm Jerry Jones. What is Jerry Jones going to do? And Jerry Jones is going to be fucking retarded and pick wide receiver out of Texas, Matthew Golden. Because he loves his Texas boys.
He does, but in my case...
I want to be honest, I don't think it's the right pick. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I don't think it's the right pick, but I could see him doing it.
I could too, but we've been wrong about that before, and in my case... I think Jerry realizes that they do need a running back, and there is one available still, because he did not end up having to go earlier. This is where they're going to take Omarion Hampton, the running back out of North Carolina.
That's fair. That's fair.
And because he's going to remind Jerry of Zeke.
Oh, God, that's true. That's true.
Alrighty. Moving on to number 13, you have a quarterback that needs to be wrapped in bubble wrap.
Exactly.
A pair of really fast wide receivers and some really fast running backs and a decent defense. And that may be trying to trade off their best cornerback.
Potentially.
What do you do as the GM of the Dolphins?
I went with the smart decision and went, our quarterback constantly needs protection. What are we going to do? Give him more protection. I went with offensive lineman out of NDSU, Gray Zabel, because he can play any position on that offensive line.
He is in my first round, but not this high up. But I had the same exact thought. Our quarterback is made out of sticky tape. So let's protect him.
More like Scotch tape.
Yes. Our quarterback is literally made out of Scotch tape and toothpicks. So let's protect him. So here is where I put the offensive tackle out of Missouri, Armand Membo.
That's fair. He was already off my list.
He was. Otherwise, he'd probably go here.
He'd probably go here, yep.
Alrighty, moving on down. You are a drunk owner with a GM that has no clue. Indianapolis Colts, what are you doing?
For once, we haven't been drinking. We're going to make a smart decision here and go, what position have we been lacking for the last decade? Oh, that's right. We're picking tight end out of Penn State, Tyler Warren.
And I had the exact same thought as you. I also mocked Tyler Warren from Penn State here. They haven't had a great tight end in at least a decade.
At least a decade.
At least a decade. Probably since the last one they had that was real good with Peyton left. Or Andrew Luck.
Yeah.
They had one with Andrew Luck.
Andrew Luck.
Dallas Clark, right?
I think it was Clark, yeah.
Yeah. But they haven't had one since then.
No.
No. So we're going to get one here, which can act as a safety valve for Richardson, so maybe Richardson stops throwing so many interceptions.
Or over people's heads.
Or over... It's going to be hard to throw over his head.
That's what I'm saying.
So, I think that works out well there. Moving down the list, the Dirty Birds of Atlanta, the Falcons are on the clock. Falcons GM, what are you doing?
So the very first thing I went, defense? Yes. So Falcons decided to pick edge out of Marshall, Mike Green.
I don't hate that pick, but I went into the different side on defense, and I said, my secondary is kind of suspect.
That's true.
So I have them taking the cornerback out of East Carolina, Siobhan Revel.
See, I went with the idea of, if you don't give him time to throw, it doesn't matter if your secondary is bad. You went with, fuck it, I need a good secondary.
Fuck it, I need a good secondary. Moving down the list. Number 16, the Arizona Cardinals, who are getting better.
They are getting better. The one thing that I immediately dressed as GM of Cardinals is gone, Kyler likes to run a lot. Maybe we should protect him just a little bit better. So I went with offensive guard out of Alabama, Tyler Booker.
I don't hate it. That's a good spot for him. However, I looked at it a little bit, and I went, my defense hasn't been very good recently.
That's also true.
So you know what? I'm going to take a guy that can play both linebacker and edge, and while I think he plays edge better than he plays linebacker, this is the spot where I pick Jalen Walker out of Georgia.
Not going to lie to you, he's not in my top in my draft first round draft.
Ooh, spicy.
Very spicy.
But he is in mine, and he's going to Arizona.
Fair enough.
Moving on the list, number 17. The team that has to motorboat and outrace everybody just to try to win a game. Cincinnati Bengals, you are on the clock.
This feels a lot like the Falcons for me. As the Bengals GM, I went defense, yes, and I went with defensive tackle out of Ole Miss, Walter Nolan.
Don't hate it, but I also said defense, yes, edge, even better. And I went with, out of Tennessee, the edge, James Pierce Jr. Let's get more after that quarterback so we don't have to rely on one guy to be doing it.
That's fair.
Moving on down the list, number 18, the Seattle Seahawks GM. You are on the clock.
Right away, I'm looking at this team and going, Sam Darnold. He did really well when he was protected. We should probably do that. So I went with offensive tackle out of Ohio, Josh Simmons.
I had the exact same thought, but since there's a better player for them here, I went with offensive guard out of Alabama, Tyler Booker.
Yep.
Which makes either one of those makes perfect sense here.
It's good, makes sense.
Yes. Moving on down the list, we might have some differing picks here. Number 19.
We will.
Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You're on the clock. What are you thinking?
I'm thinking, fuck everyone else's quarterback. We're going with edge out of Tennessee, James Pierce Jr.
I don't hate it. I don't hate it. It makes sense. You've been needing some extra edge help for a little bit now. I, however, looked in a different direction and I said, fuck everybody else's wide receivers. We're going to take the big safety out of South Carolina and Nick Amonwori.
Fair.
Which, that absolutely helps. A dude that's that size that plays safety, yeah, he's going to be rattling some people.
Fair.
Now for another fun one. Number 20. You are Sean Payton. You are the Broncos. What are you doing?
Sean Payton's going, You know what we have really good of? We have one really good corner. You know what would be really fun for everyone else's quarterback? If we got another really good corner. And so we're going with cornerback out of East Carolina, Siobhan Revel Jr. You're never throwing the ball on us ever again.
Don't hate it, but I thought in a different direction, and I went, we have a pretty good wide receiver. You know what would be more fun? If I had another one to play with.
Fair.
So out of that, they're going to take the wide receiver from Missouri, Luther Burden III. Which I think, Sean Payton figured out how to use a guy like that in his offense. That's just unfair.
I get it.
Number 21, the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Now here's where I did something fun. I looked at the Steelers for a while as GM and went, I don't think we're getting Aaron Rodgers. Let's just assume we're not getting Aaron Rodgers at this point. Fuck it. There's still a quarterback still on. There's actually two quarterbacks still on the list. But you know what would be really fun? We already have a pretty good offensive line. We have some good offensive weapons. Why not? Let's take a shot. Steelers are taking quarterback out of Colorado, Shedeur Sanders.
Funnily enough, because I don't have him rated higher than the other one, I too looked at that and went, you know, if there's going to be a place where Shedeur succeeds, it's going to be in Pittsburgh. Thinking.
Yep.
So I also have them mocked quarterback from Colorado, Shedeur Sanders.
I mean, I look at that team and I go, you just have to be a fairly above average quarterback and you'll have success here.
Yep, 100%.
So, yep.
All right, number 22. You are Jim Harbaugh, or John Harbaugh. I forget which one is which. You are one of the Harbaugh brothers, and you are in charge of the Los Angeles...
I'm pretty sure Jim is the one from Michigan, and is the Chargers, and I think John is the Ravens one.
Yeah, you're Jim Harbaugh. What are you going to do for the Chargers at number 22?
I'm looking at the board and going, hey, one of my boys is still here. I'm picking tight end out of Michigan, Colston Loveland.
I don't hate that pick, but Harbaugh's a defensive-minded guy. They do have a hole at defensive tackle. And I just think it would be fun because he's been over in that area long enough. He's going to grab the defensive tackle out of Oregon, Derek Harmon.
That's fair.
I think Harmon just fits that system, and I think it's going to be unfair to everybody else.
I don't get it. I mean, I get it, but I'm just saying that I think it's fun. Honestly, because the Chargers need a tight end, I just think him having Loveland there, I mean, it feels like a Jim Harbaugh thing to be like, hey, Michigan boy is still here. Fuck yeah.
Number 23, the Green Bay Packers.
And because I'm fair, as a GM, pretending to be the Packers GM, I'm not just going to give them the shittiest player I can find. I'm going to do the right thing and go, what do you need? I'm going to do the smart thing and go, we need a number one fucking wide receiver. Guess what? I think there's still one on the board. We're going with wide receiver out of Missouri, Luther Burden III.
I looked at it and said, we need help off the edge because we don't have edge rushers that are worth a damn. So I went ahead and said, there's a really athletic one from Georgia named Michael Williams, who I think would be perfectly fit right here. And that's who I gave them. Number 24, we come to, you are now Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah. You are the Vikings. You're on the clock.
I'm looking at this team, and I've talked with Brian Flores, and I went, you know what? If he's here, we're fucking taking him. Taking safety out of South Carolina, Nick Amanawari, because that would be disgusting.
And I absolutely agree. Unfortunately, he's no longer on my board, so instead, I'm going to take the safety out of Georgia, Malachi Starks, who is equally as disgusting for us.
Yep. Either one would be great.
Oh, God, yes. If either of this happens on draft night, I'm probably going to cheer. Number 25, you are the Houston Texans, and you are on the board.
Right away, as the Texans GM, I'm looking at this going, what was the difference from year 1 and year 2, CJ Stroud? Oh, right. We need to protect him. So I'm going with offensive tackle out of Oregon, Josh Cornely Jr.
Thankfully, I don't have to reach that far here. But I do have another offensive tackle out of Ohio State, Josh Simmons. We'll go right here. And yeah, we both have the same thought. You traded away your best tackle. You need to get another one. Stop being stupid.
For real.
All right. Number 26, moving along. You are the GM of the Los Angeles Rams. What are you doing?
So I had a lot of options here for different reasons. But I decided, you know what we don't want to have any more of? Questions on when Matthew Stafford's retiring. So we're going to get a succession plan in place right fucking now. We're picking quarterback out of Ole Miss, Jackson Dart.
And I thought about that, but there was a different hole that I decided I wanted to plug because there is one spot on the roster on the defensive side of the ball where I went, yeah, Mike could use an upgrade there. So they're going to take the linebacker from Alabama, Jahad Campbell. Which I think that's unfair.
I get it.
I think you can get a quarterback succession in round 2 or 3.
Maybe, but I wouldn't trust those as much. But that's just me.
All right, moving on. You are now GM of the Ravens, and you have been talking with John Harbaugh about the 27th overall pick. What have you guys come up with?
We decided, after looking at the team, we can score points. You know what we can't do? Stop other people from scoring points. So we're going to fix that. The Ravens are picking safety out of Georgia, Malachi Starks.
Don't hate it. I, however, thought, we have a quarterback who likes to run. Our line is okay, but could use an upgrade. Where? I don't know. Maybe a little bit of everywhere. So out of North Dakota State University, we're going to grab the offensive guard, Gray Zabel, who can play everything.
Yeah.
And if he goes to the Ravens, they will use him that way.
True.
Alrighty. You are Dan Campbell. You've been talking with your GM. Who are you picking?
You know Dan Campbell. You know what he likes to do. He likes to bite people's kneecaps. We're sticking with the biting of the kneecaps, and we're chick picking Edge out of Texas A&M, Shamar Stewart.
I agreed with you 100% out of A&M, the edge, Shamar Stewart. And having him come off one end and having friggin', yeah,
Hutchinson on the
Hutchinson come
other.
off
Yeah.
the other, that's also unfair.
Yep.
All
Oh
right.
wait, you wanted to throw the ball? My bad.
My bad, you've got two guys in your face. All right. Number 29. You are the GM of the Washington Commanders. What are you doing here?
So, I was pretty happy overall with quarterback play. Wide receivers looking pretty good. Your tight end's not bad. Offensive line did pretty good at protecting Jaden Daniels. So let's look at the defense. We could definitely use some work there. So we're going with Edge out of Georgia, Michael Williams.
I came to the same conclusion you did, but of course, Michael Williams is already off my board. However, there is one here who, again, provided the off-field issues are not true, which I think will cause him to slip to this point, makes sense for him to wind up here, and that is the edge out of Marshall, Mike Green. And I think if he falls here, their head coach is going to know how to use him, and it's going to be bad for everybody.
Yep.
Alrighty, number 30. You are the Buffalo Bills. What do you do at 30?
If I'm the Bills, I am rubbing my hands that this particular player has somehow dropped this far on my fucking board. And I'm going, hell fucking yeah. We're taking defensive tackle out of Michigan, Kenneth Grant.
He is unfortunately off my board already, as is a lot of the DTs. However, they could also use... I know they just signed Trey White, but I made this list before that. And you know me, I'm a little higher on him than you are. So here's where they're going to grab the cornerback from Texas, Jahdae Barron. Now, and the reason why, I know you don't like him as much.
He's not on my first round pick, yeah.
No, there's a lot of other people, though, that have him up there. And so, thinking about it logically, this is where he's going to go.
Potentially, yeah.
Number 31, you are the Kansas City Chiefs. You've been talking with your ultra-successful head coach, Andy Reid. What do you do?
A lot of options. I kind of just threw a dart at a board and went, this will probably work. I went with defensive tackle out of Oregon, Derek Harmon.
Yep, and I also went with a defensive tackle, deciding that that's the one place that we could really use some extra help. And I went, because Harmon's off my board, but there's a pretty good one still sitting here, and I'm thanking people for not taking him sooner, and that's the defensive tackle out of Ole Miss, Walter Nolan.
Mm-hmm.
You are now the GM of the Philadelphia Eagles, and outside of burning the organization to the ground, you must make a pick. What are you going to do here at 32, sir?
I decided I would take a shot on a raw prospect that people have been hyping up pretty well, and if it works out, would make our defense absolutely fucking disgusting. Cornerback out of Kentucky, Maxwell Harrison.
Don't hate it, but I went another way. I said, damn, I just lost one of my best edge rushers. So I'm going to take another pretty raw but really good prospect out of Texas A&M. I'm going to grab the edge, Nick Skirton.
Nick Skirton, yeah, that's fair.
And that is how we predicted the first round overall. Very interesting, I think.
Yeah.
We'll have to see how it all shakes out. We will be
a lot of trench guys.
A lot of trench guys on both sides of the ball. Because that's kind of what is in need this year.
Yep.
And
it's also what a lot of the top talent is.
A lot of the top talent are trench guys out of the defensive and offensive side. So I think we're going to see some interesting stuff. We're probably going to see some trades. I'm not going to predict a big trade or anything. We will watch the draft on Thursday, and you will get our reactions to it. So, in the meantime, do you have anything else?
No.
Awesome. So, what we're going to tell everybody is be back here next week. Same bearded channel. Same bearded brothers. We'll be here watching the draft. In the meantime, we'll tell all of you that we believe that you can do it. If you believe you can do it, put your mind to it. You can get it done. We know. We're going to say, stay bearded. Peace out. And hopefully this time there's studio.
Maybe.